Cassidy Howard is the director of the film, What's Left Behind. She joins us now here on First at 4 Focus. And Cassidy, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, currently you are a junior at MSU, so were you a student on the campus when that shooting happened?
I was on campus.
And Cassidy, we're having a hard time hearing you, but if you can hear me, tell us about your experience being on campus when that happened.
All right, hopefully you can hear me a little bit better now. I'm sorry. I was on campus when the shooting happened. I was supposed to go to the Union building to meet up with some friends and go to the arcade, but I ended up being too cold, so I returned home to get my coat, and that led to me being at my dorm when shots were fired.
Boy, just returning home to get your coat kept you out of harm's way. So tell us about your film, What's Left Behind. I understand it uses poetry in its storytelling.
It does. What's Left Behind tells the story of the lockdown generation. My generation is the first to grow up with the threat of violence in schools being a constant worry. What's Left Behind shows the experience of growing up in that environment by using poetry I wrote over the course of a decade, over the course of the decade as the script.
Oh, okay. So if you're a junior, you're what, 20 now, 2021? And so you've been writing poetry since you were 10 or 11, is that correct?
Yeah.
And this production features all of those works or many of those works from your decades long of poetry writing?
Yep, the first poem featured in the film I wrote at age 11 following the Pulse nightclub shooting.
So why was it important for you, Cassidy, to tell this story and tell it in this way in particular?
It mattered to me, and this story matters because no matter how common of occurrence it is for members of my generation to fear gun violence and to experience it, it is still such an alienating and an isolating feeling. It can mean the world to someone to know that whether you are facing the fact of school shootings, hopefully, like the 11-year-old me was, or you're just trying to find a way to change the story for future generations, you are not alone. No matter how you feel, you are not alone. And that's the purpose of this film, is just to show people that their experience is theirs, but they don't have to handle it by themselves.
Yeah, I know you sent us an excerpt of one of the poems that's featured in this production, and I think we have something we can show our audience, at least an excerpt of it. Tell us about the poem and what really prompted you to write this particular piece.
So the piece that you are seeing is Flowers Remind Me of Funeral Homes, and that poem was prompted by the genuine realization I had about 2 years ago that funeral homes smell like flowers. Flowers don't smell like funeral homes. I never liked how flowers smelled because they always reminded me of funerals and hospitals, and it made me sad. And when I realized that, I found it to be a really potent example of just how often death is something that our generation has been exposed to. And I thought it was really sad to see how the brain can see something that holds so much beauty and find a way to associate it with death.
Yeah, with something like gun violence. So tell us, Cassidy, before you go, how would you say gun violence has kind of shaped your view of the world?
Gun violence has shaped my view of the world in ways that I can't express. I don't know what my life was like before I was afraid of guns. I don't know what my life was like before every lockdown drill. I thought it was the real thing. There is no before gun violence, so it shaped my life in every way. In every conversation and every interaction, there's a shadow of it somewhere. The violence at MSU confirmed the fears I already had, that if we were quiet, we were not going to be protected. We had to be outspoken. But at the same time, I have never seen a community come together in the way that they did after February 13th. I don't know that I ever imagined it was possible. As heartbreaking as it was, there was no room in the months following that to wonder how loved I was or how loved our community was.
Yeah, I guess that was the beauty on the other side of it. Cassidy, What's Left Behind, a short film. It premieres this Friday at the Broad in East Lansing. Is it open to the public, and are tickets required?
Yes, ma'am, it is open to the public. Tickets are not required. You should register, but it is a free event. And if you want to register, the film is being shown at 7 p.m. at the Broad Art Museum, and you can find the link for that at broadmuseum.msu.edu. Broad, B-R-O-A-D, broadmuseum.msu.edu. And yeah, the film will be shown at 7 p.m. with a 20-minute Q&A session afterwards.
All right, Cassidy, thank you so much for joining us here today on First at 4. Wishing you the absolute best, and have a great day.
Thank you so much for having me. Have a wonderful day.
You too.